Firstly, what is parkour? By definition, parkour is an athletic discipline in which practitioners try to get from point A to point B in the fastest and most efficient way possible. Whilst it is true, many believe that there's a much deeper and individual meaning. Rather than it being a competitive sport, there are still many forms of competition, however. It is considered more of an expression of movement. This is done in a variety of ways, depending on the athlete, but many learn and develop ways of overcoming obstacles by pushing their minds and bodies to the limit. This isn't as simple as getting from point A to point B though. This might be how you start out, but many find a way of moving that scratches that euphoric itch. For example, athletes that focus on power may create lines that use explosive movement and technical skill, but others may create lines that focus on flow and control. This creates a unique style that is different for everyone, and the challenge isn't always to beat an opponent, but to improve upon your own personal skill. Parkour has seemingly grown with the advancement of film production and social media. As the technology has grown, so has the sport. Due to the milestones of both social media and parkour, I want to find out people's opinions on how the culture of the sport has developed over the years and answer the question, how has social media impacted the evolution of parkour and has it caused its decline? Parkour was known for its long-form content where practitioners would artistically demonstrate their skills by creating jaw-dropping lines and overcoming personal feats. The 13th of June 2013 changed the world of parkour forever as Instagram released their very first video feature. This meant athletes started producing more short-form content, which honestly did push the sport to a more mainstream audience. But did this eliminate some of the culture that was known to be ingrained within the sport? Athletes were getting more and more views and the sport was getting pushed further onto people's pages. This type of content showed more of a shock factor, which people love, but it did eliminate some of the culture aspect that parkour is known for. Very similar to skating. I visited a jump parkour session which is run out of the new college in Leicester to get some opinions from some actual practitioners.
I started 4.5 years ago because there was a waiting list back then.
I think about 7 years ago.
I saw it on TV in 2005 on a documentary called Jump Britain. After that, I just wanted to go and try it, so I went out the next day.
It's my youngest child who saw parkour on the social media. I wanted to do it because I was full of energy and I wanted to join in.
I printed out the move list from the Urban Free Flow website, so I had a reference and then went to a railing in a park down the road from me and just tried to learn all the movements from there. When I was walking home from sixth form one day, I saw a couple of people vaulting a railing on my route home walking, so I went over to them, asked if they were doing parkour, and we formed like a little group where we went to train every weekend. And it was just very ad hoc.
We started sessions at the old Phoenix Centre. And I think Dan started a Hell's Night on Wednesday night, which fitted in perfectly because I could just come straight from work. That was more strength training. And that was really good because that made me stronger, I think. And we moved over to doing parkour here.
I train a lot at Bede Park as well. Sometimes by myself and then sometimes with other people.
I don't mind, I like both. If I want to be really focused on something, then I'll go out and just happily train solo and just work on that thing. Especially if it's like athletic performance or strength and conditioning related, then I'm happy just to do that solo. Training, I don't mind doing with friends or by myself.
You'll all like look at each other and you'll give each other like help. You'll basically bring each other up rather than on your own.
Sometimes I put a lot of it on Instagram, but not really like YouTube or anything like that.
Not for a while. I haven't posted for like 2 years or something. And people keep nagging me to do it, but for whatever reason, I don't do it that much.
I do it as kind of a personal archive of progression.
I think just to show other people like my skills and talents. Other times it's just to show me that I'm good at parkour as well.
It feels good to put myself out there in a way. And it's also letting my friends see it rather than just having it on my camera, even though my friends recorded it probably.
I think it needs a push in like popularity.
I never have time to watch the social media. It's not part of my life really. I'm too busy working and doing everything else. But I have seen odd clips in social media about other people doing sort of what they call parkour, yes.
I think social media was probably responsible for the large growth of parkour from like when it started in the UK 2003, 2005 to now. I think it's super prevalent because it's very eye-catching and it's a lot of it's short-form content, which is what people digest now.
I think there's growing use of social media for people doing parkour to train and watch themselves on video clips to improve their technique.
I'm biased because I follow a lot of parkour on Insta, but there's a lot really. If you look for it, you'll find so many people. Everyone's in their own space training how they want, and I think it's a lot more than people think.
Majority, I think, good because of like influencers and stuff like that.
I think it's a really good tool, and I never don't use enough, and we should use it all the time.
It's a great way to siphon people's attention from things, so I think it can be a nice escape. It can also be inadvertently a way for people to kind of compare their own lives to what they see on social media, and I think it can kind of warp perceptions. But equally, it's also a great tool to connect and learn from people with maybe a similar mindset.
There's a lot of other social media which demonstrates people push themselves to the limits. I don't know whether you'd call it parkour any longer, when they climb the highest building in the most dangerous situation without security ropes. It's, yes, pushing the edge of parkour on social media.
There's arguments to be made for and against, but personally, I think it's a good thing. You're able to share experiences that you've had with other people, and I think it's a generally just all-around good thing.
It's a great tool to connect, but I think, yeah, it has positives and negatives. Yes, I don't think you need to necessarily filmmake to do parkour, but equally, since pretty much the inception of parkour, people have wanted to document what they do and share it. There was definitely a period of a few years where everyone had like a Canon, I think 650D or 350D. Everybody had this camera at a jam, like all around their neck, like ready to film stuff. So absolutely, like there's been a huge connection with filmmaking. And I think as it shifted more towards short form content rather than long form like YouTube, I think maybe you'd see less of like the DSLR and more of like just stuff on a phone. People are always making content and films with parkour.
I'd have to say so, yeah. Like the amount of clips that people record. If you go to any like big jam, there's always cameras around, there's always phones. There's also people that will do stuff for the camera. I think it pushes people to do things they wouldn't normally do.
Yes, certainly, because I think during the COVID, for example, we're encouraged to do video clips of ourselves doing certain challenges. That was motivating because you thought somebody else is still out there doing their parkour and doing this particular challenge. That's an idea. I think I would go and do it as well.
Yeah, when you've been in it as long as I have, you don't just see one, you see many. Because of social media and again, like short form content, I've used that term so many times. Generally, the content that floats to the top of the algorithm is what's most eye-catching. People that have learned maybe in the last few years think that only what they see, like the spectacular stuff or the roof-to-roof stuff or the risky stuff, is what parkour is, because the people that share that stuff, they get the views, whereas people that are doing other things, just training to get strong or to be useful, which is equally just as much part of parkour as doing big jumps, maybe get less views just because of the way the algorithm works. So I think absolutely there's going to be some bias there.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of, so of course like YouTube groups, so like Team Fat is a primary one in YouTube parkour, and Stora, of course, and I think they've very changed the culture of parkour and like urban free running.
It's gone through phases, the sport. They're like really old, like pre my time, it used to be like parachute joggers doing like all types of like flowy movements. More recently, people have brought in like their own unique styles.
Interestingly, we used to do more parkour trips in town. We did it in Bede Park, and then we went round town and climbed up, practiced jumping onto a wall or off a wall or over a wall. And interestingly, we've stopped doing that. And I just wonder whether there's a social element that it's been discouraged by the council to stop us doing it.
I think if it ends up where the reason that people train is just to compete and to win, then what makes parkour has died. That's not to say that people shouldn't compete if they don't want to, but the goal of parkour ever since it was created is to be strong, be useful, be capable, be able to move well, be able to help yourself, to be able to help others, be able to solve problems, be able to overcome fears. And that's way more important. So as long as that message carries on, then I'll be happy. And I think groups like Parkour UK and ourselves will hopefully push that forward, along with many other coaching organisations in the UK.
I think more people should be doing it because it's such a natural way of exercising, because it exercises all of you.
You can't really narrow it down to one thing. There's a lot of people that excel in their own areas. I can't give a definitive answer on what the future might hold for parkour because everyone trains in their own way. Well, it's definitely brought it more mainstream popularity. That's just like the surface. If you look more into it, there's a bunch more talented people around. I think the social media has really brought light to these talented people. They wouldn't have seen much more attention previously.
Because I don't use a lot of social media, I'm not too opinionated, but I think it's good and important and it should be used to encourage more people to do it.
We're never short of people wanting to join, which is really, really encouraging. People have always had a route to see parkour. There's always been some form of media platform or social media where people can see it. So it's always been quite visible and probably always targeted at the right audiences just because of the type of people that will consume on those different platforms. Maybe if we had more classes, more space and time to offer, we might see a difference. So maybe that could be the limiting factor, but I would say it's been consistent.
Again, bringing a lot of popularity into parkour, and then people seeing people do parkour, and then being like, again, oh, that's cool, I want to do that. So yeah, bringing a lot of new people into the world of parkour.
I would just say it's growth. With the advent of YouTube about the same time as Jump London and Jump Britain, and with it being eye-catching, like I've said before, absolutely, without platforms like that, I think parkour would be a lot smaller just because people wouldn't have seen it. Absolutely massive, and the correlation is strong.
As all things do, parkour has changed alongside social media, and I may have been harsh with my initial perspective. People's way of consuming media has changed, and athletes have altered the way they produce content to work alongside this. This short-form content has not only brought new people to the sport, but has caused the industry to shift and grow. So in short, social media has impacted parkour dramatically, but in a way that has caused the sport to grow and thrive in this new era of developing technology.